Hi, welcome back. In today's perfection-driven society, teens are increasingly developing heartbreaking obsessions about the way they look. Fitting into a size 0 drives kids to develop life-threatening behaviors that not only hurt themselves, but their families as well. We all want to look good, but when does wanting to have a 0% body fat count become a troubling disease? Most importantly, how can parents tell that their child is not just going through a phase, but through a severe illness that can actually take their life? Here to tell both sides of an eating disorder struggle are mom and daughter team, Lorri Benson and Taryn Benson, authors of Distorted. Ladies, we appreciate you being here with us. This is really just a heartbreaking story, but luckily this one has a happy ending. Let's start with you, Taryn. When did you know that you had an eating disorder?
Well, I knew that I had an eating disorder. I didn't really see it as much of a problem for a while after I was into it. It really started to become, I really noticed that it was a problem, and it really started to really feel out of control probably when I was about 17 and almost 18, and I had been doing the disorder behaviors for several years.
In your own words, tell everybody out there what exactly an eating disorder is.
An eating disorder, I think a common misconception is it's not always just about food. You know, it's not always about what you're eating or how much of it you're eating. It's about how you feel about yourself. And you know, a big part of it is the emotions that you go through and the self-loathing and the depression and the anxiety that it causes. You know,
and it's really disordered eating. It's really doing things in a different way, but you can't forget the emotional and the mental part of it. That's really what it's about. But it can manifest itself by withholding food and anorexia, by binging and purging. You know, there are various ways, by over-exercising continually. That's called exercise bulimia.
She talked a lot about low self-esteem and not feeling good enough. Where did that come from?
God only knows. That was one of the biggest problems that I had, is I felt like we had made a lot of choices to give our family the priority, the big priority in our lives. And we moved from New York down to Florida so we could have a family-centered life. We made all these choices so that we wouldn't have issues and problems later on. Yes, I heard her say things like, "Oh, I wish, you know, my hair is so awful, my nose is funny, you know, look at this fat." But all of them, I thought, were just sort of age-appropriate things that all kids feel and all kids go through.
And when we look at her, we see such a beautiful girl.
She was always a beautiful girl.
What was the worst part of the ordeal for you? When did you realize, okay, I'm in trouble here?
I really realized it, and there was a summer when I was staying at a cousin's house, and just the efforts that I had to go to in order to binge and purge and continue with my eating disorder. And you know, because I didn't have a car, so I couldn't just drive to the grocery store, so I had to wait till everyone was sleeping, and then I'd go and try and binge, and I could only take certain amounts from certain containers so they wouldn't notice, and then I was in the backyard throwing up and everything.
Did anybody know? Did you share your problem?
Well, I didn't.
At that point, we all knew.
You did know.
She was visiting at a family.
Yeah.
This was well into it. I knew there was a problem well before she accepted.
Did you talk to her about it?
Yes, I mean, she knew there was an issue. We sent her to a facility, she was in therapy, but she didn't accept it herself that this was actually an issue that was impacting her life. She liked having the eating disorder. She wanted to continue with it. So when she's telling you this story, this is 2 years into the eating disorder.
This was really my awakening and my kind of feeling that this was out of control.
Do you think part of your healing was writing this book, was writing Distorted? Tell us about this book.
It was very therapeutic.
Okay.
We decided, she actually was still in the eating disorder when I told her I had searched for resources for myself and for my husband and the other kids, and there was nothing out there for the family. There was a lot of medical things, there was a lot of first-person stories, but I felt a resource for families was needed, and I wanted to write this. And Taryn is a writer and said, well, I've been thinking I'd really like to write my story also. And we talked about it, and we thought, wouldn't that really open up what an eating disorder is if you saw it from both sides, and you saw what the family went through, and you saw it from the patient's viewpoint together, and you could see how deceptive and manipulative this disease is, because as we're telling the same story, it's two different stories.
What kind of advice would you give to other families who are going through a similar situation? You've been through that storm.
The recovery is not on the parents' shoulders. It's on the patient's, the child or young woman or young man's shoulders. We did so many things, but it wasn't until Taryn said, I want this, I'm ready to recover, that any progress was made.
Well,
that's important.
Yeah, and part of you doing this, and we really want to tell you thank you so much for sharing your story, because there are so many young girls out there who are going through right now what you've gone through and don't feel like they have anywhere to turn, don't feel like their family will understand, and are afraid to come forward. So by you speaking out, I think you're helping a lot of young girls out there. So we do appreciate you doing this.
Oh, we hope so.
Thank you so much. Where can viewers find your book?
It should be in all the bookstores. If you have trouble in your area, Amazon.com.
You can check our website, www.distortedthebook.com. There's links on the website to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, the publisher's website, and it's available through all of those websites.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next wave in creative home businesses is here. More on that coming up.